Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Motor Trade Radio podcast, powered by eBay Motors Group. It is Saturday the 30th of April and you're joined by myself, Philip Nuthard.
And me, Curtis Hutchinson. This is episode 21, season 8 of Motor Trade Radio, bringing you all the chatter that matters. And once again, we've gathered together this week's big car retailing stories across the franchised and independent sectors for you to enjoy all in one place, on demand, on your podcast feed. And to start this week's show, Phil, I must say a big thanks to yourself, Andy Condy from Mannheim Auctions, and Cheshire Cars' David Billsborough for stepping in for me last week. I really enjoyed the show. I was on holiday. I listened to it whilst walking Molly the dog on the beach. And it was a great show. You guys had a really good chat about what's happening in the used car market.
We did, yeah. The three Stooges were on, yeah. But so you were listening, whilst they say, with Molly, who made her cameo the week before, but eating Cornish pasties and drinking Cornish ale by the sounds of it.
Yeah, she was eating the pasties.
Not you.
I was drinking the ale.
Better that way around, I suppose. Yes, yeah. No. I'm glad you had a well-deserved and needed break there, and I think you had some fantastic weather for it as well. Yeah,
I mean, I've been going to Cornwall for years because there's family down there, and I've seen all sorts of weather, but rarely sunshine. So sunshine in April was an absolute bonus.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll get into some shout-outs now. So this week we did chat with Cap HPI's Darren Martin about April values, and it's still available on your podcast feed, and we'll be sharing a little bit of an extract because I think his opening statement kind of sums the month of April up and the market we're currently facing. So we'll add a little snippet of the interview from Darren into this week's podcast, but you can hear the complete interview there. It's still on your podcast feed that was shared earlier on in the week.
And we're also joined today by Neil Addley, MD of JudgeService, who will be talking about driving digital. So that's the event that takes place on the morning of the AM Awards. So he'll be sharing details about who the speakers are. He's got a great lineup of speakers and how to get tickets.
And next week we will have Stephen Whitten, who will be returning with the memorable moments. So make sure you do tune in to next week's episode, and you get some up-to-date thoughts from the world of Stephen Whitten and what's going on in his head around the Menable market, in what he's doing in the Menable wellbeing world. So don't forget to tune in next week for that one.
Yeah, and before we go into the headlines, just congratulations, shout out to Marshall Motors, who this week kindly got in touch with us, dropped us a press release announcing that they've been ranked as one of the best UK workplaces for the 8th year running. Now, I know this means a huge amount to Marshall. I mean, it's an incredible achievement to get that ranking for 8 consecutive years, so they'll be very pleased about that. Within the press release, it says that the group has been ranked 11th in the super large category, so that's organisations of over 1,000 plus employees, and that's part of the best workplaces rankings presented by Great Place to Work. So congratulations to the team, they're thoroughly well deserved.
Yeah, congratulations, Dash, and the management team and everybody at Marshalls, because I know many of you do listen to the podcast. So well done with that, and 8th year. But expectations now for the next year, but we'll keep an eye on that one. And as Curtis said there, if you do want to get in touch, please do drop us a note. You can find Curtis and I on all the social channels, or you can get in touch through the Motor Trade Radio LinkedIn group, follow us on Twitter, or even Facebook. You can find us. So do drop us a note, or you can just drop us a quick email at motortraderadio@yahoo.com. So we've got a mixture of headlines this week, as well as the interview there with Neil and the snippet from the Darren interview.
Yeah, indeed. So headlines this week are from AM, Car Dealer, Sky News and the FT, starting with annual MoT checks could be scrapped under government plans to ease cost of living crisis. Volvo takes stake in CarWow to help boost digital sales. We'll name the slowest and fastest selling used cars of the last 12 months. We have the latest financial news with some positive Q1 interims from both Pendragon and Inchcape, and we'll finish with news of the latest dealer acquisition that's happened over the course of the last week. But before we go any further, we're going to start this week's show with an extract from our interview with Darren Martin, CAP HPI's Director of Valuations.
Yeah, hi guys. So it's been a really interesting month, probably one of the most interesting and mixed months since I've been at CAP, which is last 9 years. It's been a 2.1% drop at 3 years 60, but probably more so than ever. That doesn't tell the whole story. It's a similar drop to what happened in March. And I think it's fair to say that at the start of the month, we thought it would probably go maybe between 3 and 4%. Sorry, at the start of April, we thought it would go maybe between 3 and 4%, based off the data that we were seeing at the time. So it is a fairly large movement, but it's not as big as we thought it would be. Based off sort of things stabilizing a little bit. Year to date, there's been drops for the last 2 or 3 months after I think we had a stable month in January for February. So we are on a bit of a downward trajectory, which we did predict and forecast would happen. But I think it's happened. Some of the movements that have happened slightly earlier than we expected.
Well, as ever, some great insight there from Darren, and that really is hot off the press, because the editorial was only published midway through the week, and Darren joined us right at the beginning of the week to talk us through that. And interesting that his observation was it's the most interesting and mixed month that he's seen in 9 years at CAP. I mean, that's one way of putting it, and I think we're in for more interesting and mixed months.
Yeah, and I bet many listeners this morning will be feeling the same as well, of what to do, what's best, what, etc. So lots going on. And I say, have a listen to the full interview there with Darren. It's still available on your podcast feed, and he does share some interesting thoughts on what's just happened in April, but actually more importantly, what's to think about for the next few weeks. Really, we normally try and think about further out, don't we? But yes, we are sort of thinking weeks ahead rather than months ahead at the minute, aren't we? But
pretty soon it's just going to be days, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, talking of this and talking of complications and changes in the market, as Kirsty said, the first headline, we're over to Sky News this week actually, and this is that the headline is annual MOT checks could be scrapped under government plans to ease cost of living. So this is a plan coming from the government there, that they feel that deferring the annual MOT requirement at after 3 years, they're going to push it back to 2 years, I think, Curtis. And I think they've taken this idea that it will save the consumer. Is it an average of £54 on it?
Yeah, from memory, I think it's £54.85 if you pay the full price. But we've been here before, and this conversation does crop up kind of on a regular basis now. I posted this story on LinkedIn and got some really interesting comments. I mean, I described it as muddle-headed, because it is. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, yeah, I'm all for saving money, especially in these times of the cost of living crisis, and there will be motorists will be looking very closely at their budgets. But saving £50, £54, £55. I don't think that's going to do it, especially as a lot of motorists will be looking at cheaper MOTs anyway and only paying half of that. So they will be making those savings. But I guess what concerns me is the lack of, if we go to 2 years, the lack of checks on tyre wear and brake wear. And that's really where it starts to get dangerous.
Yeah, and we mustn't forget as well that the revenue that comes into the industry from annual MOTs and what it means to the sector, that goes back into the government's treasury. Let's not, the government does get revenue from the annual MOT there. And Mike Hawes, and I won't read the whole statement out, but he does make a point, and he obviously shares the widespread concern over rising prices and the squeeze on household incomes, as he said there, Curtis. But he talks about safety. and that we must, however, ensure that safety critical components such as brakes and tyres, which wear out as a result of normal operation, are properly inspected and maintained. And he does point out the risk there that stretching those MOT intervals will potentially undermine the safety of a vehicle. Because it won't highlight those safety items to the driver that they need doing and need replacing. So there is a safety aspect to this, and I think you did make the comment. I think that one of your responses, the most probably one supportive response, was that in this, is it in France? I think that they made a comment that they have this in France and it works quite well. Should we let the listeners decide what they know about the French market of used cars? Whether that does or doesn't work over in France, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and there was a good point made by Edmund King, president of the AA, who points out that 1 in 6 failures at the moment are brake related, so they're brake issues. So, he really does point out that safety is paramount. And he also points out that, if you are pulled to the side of the road because you've got a faulty light, you face a £100 fine. So, where's the saving there? So, hopefully this will just be kicked into the long grass and that they'll find savings elsewhere. But this is, hopefully this one doesn't.
Yeah, and as you say, they've looked at this before. There was, all the consultations about, pushing back when your first MOT was required. That went through long consultation between the UK government and industry bodies of the automotive sector. And, I think, I don't know, we won't get too political. I suspect there's better ways of saving household expenditures than putting safety at risk in the automotive sector and impacting income in the automotive sector as well, which we all know is needed, and continued income for the sector. So we'll see how this one plays out. I'm not sure where this will end up.
Yeah, but it's probably just worth adding that the trade bodies did round on it very quickly. They responded immediately, saying it's a total non-starter.
And we'll head over to the FT now. So the Financial Times there, and Volvo takes stake in CarWow to help boost digital sales. Now, this, I believe, is on the back. Didn't they get investment from or involvement from Mercedes some time ago, Curtis?
Back in 2019, so Volvo is only the second OEM to invest in CarWow, and it's a good story. I do urge you to go over to the FT because it is very detailed. There's some really good comments from Volvo on what the attraction is for them, but I suspect.
I think I can see the attraction. In fairness,
because we know because Volvo's repeatedly said this, that they want to sell half of their cars online by 2025. Now, CarWow has a huge social reach because its YouTube channel alone has 7 million subscribers and 70 million monthly views. And if you compare that with just 185,000 subscribers to Volvo's YouTube channel, so you kind of get where Volvo are coming from. So by taking a stake in CarWow, they get to reach this bigger audience, and as you say, it's they've done something similar with Mercedes 3 years ago, but the minority share is through Volvo Cars Tech Fund. So that's Volvo's VC arm, which typically takes a stake of up to 10% in businesses outside of its core area. Now, we don't know what the stake is. That hasn't actually been announced in this story, but it's an interesting development, and you can just see the synergies there.
Exactly. I mean, that's a huge number, isn't it? I mean, that consumer reach is phenomenal for what CarWow have there, and you can see that the appetite from the manufacturers in general is why they would want to try and get to that ready-built audience, and particularly, as you say, as they move towards that online-only environment. So, again, probably the first of many that are probably looking at this as an alternative solution for their business. So we'll keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and also worth pointing out that CarWow doesn't just operate in the UK, it's Germany and Spain. So there is a European aspect to this as well.
Yeah. And moving over to Car Dealer now, and they covered the top 10 used cars that take the longest time to sell, and this was from research data within eBay Motors Group. Now, we've got the actual data from this, haven't we, Curtis, to share, because they sort of shared those unsellables.
Yes.
And you know, there's always a positive to a negative with these things, isn't there?
Yeah, there is indeed, and I've well, you have as well. We've got access to this chart that eBay Motors Group have issued, which I'll actually share on my social media channels. So because it is worth taking a look at the top 20s. So in terms, I mean, as you say, Car Dealer sort of concentrate on the slowest sellers. So if I just give you the top 5 slowest sellers, then we can look at the fastest sellers. So number 5, the Skoda Scala, which averaged, if I can just scroll across because it's quite a big chart, that averaged 57.6 days. Number 4, Audi e-tron, which averaged 63.5 days. That's probably a bit of a surprise, that vehicle. But
yeah, it's an interesting one, that one. I think with that electric, but I don't know, it's a big investment into it in that EV sector, and obviously you're then comparing against new as well, aren't you, with that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the giveaway there is the average price, which is £64,634. So that would probably explain part of the reason why it's a slow seller. Number 3 is the SsangYong Corando, averaging 65.6 days. Number 2, the Nissan Elgrand, averaging 67.5 days. That's actually an import model. I must admit, I had to look that one up. I recognised the car, but not the name. So that's the number 2 position. And the slowest selling car in the rankings is the SsangYong Tivoli, averaging 74.9 days. And again, that's a bit of a surprise because it's a small SUV, and small compact SUVs are very much in the sweet spot of the used car market at the moment, especially this particular model potentially, because the average price is just over £13,000.
And what is interesting with this, that through the years and within the sector, the policy was always from an overage perspective, either 60 or 90 days. 90 within more the supercar and premium sectors, and more 60 days in the mainstream. But they're not, these slower sellers out of that sort of bottom 20, they're not far off that 60 days, which kind of does add that element that how quickly these cars are actually selling, and they are the slowest out of the ones that the data's shown.
Yeah, and the criteria for these models was that there had to be over 1,000 units listed across the eBay Motors Group. So that does take out some of the more niche models and high-end models. So it is a pretty good reflection there. And moving over to the 5 faster sellers, as I say, there are 20, and I will post these, so do check out on my LinkedIn and the Motor Trade Radio LinkedIn accounts, and we'll share that. But number 5, it's the Infiniti Q30, averaging 27.9 days. Number 4, the Vauxhall Mokka, averaging 27.8 days. Number 3, the Tesla Model 3, averaging 25.8 days. Number 2, Vauxhall GTC, 25.2 days. And the fastest selling car over the last 12 months, so this is March to March, was the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, averaging just 23.9 days to sell. Understandably so, because that's a hugely desirable car.
It is, yeah, definitely. And in the Car Dealer, there's a comment in there from Dermot Kelleher, who's the head of marketing and research for eBay Motors Group, that makes a comment that although the demand for used cars was exceptionally high over the last 12 months, there were inevitably some models that struggled to find buyers regardless of price. So pointing out there that there was a car for everybody, but not quite as quickly as some of the others.
You're listening to All the Chatter That Matters on Motor Trade Radio, powered by eBay Motors Group. This is your weekly one-stop shop for all the biggest car retailing headlines from across the media available on demand wherever you are on your podcast feed. Now, we're delighted to be joined on today's podcast by Neil Addley, MD of JudgeService. He's here to talk about an upcoming industry event he's working on behalf of the NFDA. So welcome back to the podcast, Neil.
Thank you, Curtis. Yeah, it's great to be back on, and great to be working with Sue, Robinson, Gabby and the rest of the team at the NFDA.
Yeah, great. So, as I say, great to have you back on there, Neil, and you know, you're doing a lot of fantastic work at the minute, but we've got a couple of things that we've got you back on for today, and the first one is you're involved with, as Curtis said there, with the Driving Digital, which takes place on the 12th of May, on the morning of the AM Awards that we've mentioned a couple of times recently on the podcast. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening there and how you're involved?
Sure. So we've been running Driving Digital with the NFDA for 10 years now, so this is our 10th anniversary. And this year, for the first time, we're in Westminster. Because the AM Awards are in Westminster that evening. And we've got an absolutely stellar lineup of speakers. And I think we're really this year looking at how we can help dealers prepare for what's coming next. So previously, perhaps we've been very, very focused on digital. But this year, we're maybe looking at a situation where there is a bit of a cost of living crisis, a bit of a dent in consumer confidence, and then there's obviously also all the supply side issues that we've faced over the last 18 months. So we're kind of trying to give a bit of a backdrop and then solutions to how you can deal with the situation that's coming. So we start with an economic outlook from Owen Edwards from Grant Thornton, who'll be giving his take on the prospects for the UK economy and how that affects both new and used car marketing in the next 12, 18 months.
And Neil, this is all very timely, but is it going to be all doom and gloom?
Not at all. We've got a really good lineup this year, and they're going to be talking about insights that they've got that will really help dealers to prepare for the next, as I say, 12 to 18 months. We've got Ian Plummer from Auto Trader. He'll be giving the latest insights from the biggest buying platform that dealers can use, key trends in consumer behaviour over the past 12 months and what he thinks dealers can do to take advantage of the next 12 months. We've got Kim Costello from Pendragon. She's their Chief Marketing Officer, and she's going to talk about what they're doing to prepare themselves for the next couple of years and also the more optimistic times beyond perhaps the next couple of years. Mark Palmer will be talking about electric cars and how that is changing in the way people are looking at vehicles. I'll do a bit on customer service that we've got from JudgeService, and then I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome back Eddie Hawthorne from Arnold Clark. He's our keynote speaker, and he'll share some of the secrets from Arnold Clark's successes over the past couple of years. And as the biggest private company in the automotive sector, their plans for the future. Of course, they don't need to necessarily think about shareholders as much as they do about how they can prepare their business to look after their customers and colleagues alike.
And that really is a great lineup of speakers there, Neil. I'm particularly interested in Kim Costello because her background is from AutoNation in the US, selling used cars out there. So hopefully she'll be sharing some best practices from over there.
I think we're incredibly lucky to get the speakers we've got this year. I think it's been perhaps the best ever.
And I mean, where can people get hold of the tickets? Are they still available for the Driving Digital event?
There are some left, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much selling out, but there's still some available. So if you visit all the W's driving-digital.co.uk, you can pick up a ticket there. As I say, you need to act fast because we are selling out pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone's out of lockdown now, aren't they? And want to get out to these events, and the Westminster is certainly a pull for visitors into it. I mean, that's a fantastic venue for both the Driving Digital and the AM Awards this year.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you can get to London, then it's you're in the seat of power, aren't you?
Exactly. And we couldn't have you back on the show today without asking you about some of the trends that you've been unearthing on your latest research, and which is the Power of Customer Satisfaction 2022. I mean, we mentioned this on the show recently, but thought it would be a good idea and good opportunity to get your take on what customers think of the various upsells offered by dealers, because they're finding the challenges it does challenge some popular views.
Sure, yeah. So it's really interesting. Thank you. The research we've done shows that when we look at the JudgeService scores, that people actually like to be upsold. So if we use the promoter score as the way of measuring that, what we see is it goes up when they're offered additional products. So I guess it's a bit like McDonald's. Do you want fries with that? Of course they do. So for example, if you offer service plans, the promoter score increases from about 55% to 85%. And a similar effect is seen on GAP, paint protection, even cosmetic repair insurance increases their overall promoter score. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You're just spending a load of money on a vehicle, whether it's a monthly payment or a cash amount. You want to invest in protecting that pride and joy, to look after your car. So it makes sense that if you're offered ways to do that, particularly service plans, but the others as well, then that's something you welcome as a customer.
There's some really interesting findings there, Neil, because you also look at GAP, don't you, and some of the other add-ons, paint protection, extended warranties, and I know we've spoken about this before, but the sort of popular conception, the popular idea is that customers are resistant to being upsold, but this research shows otherwise, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think we're maybe a little bit cynical about stuff as we, we as the sellers of stuff, we may be a little bit cynical, but actually consumers really welcome being offered the opportunity to protect their baby.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, probably there's no better time than any at the minute, is there? Is particularly, we're starting to see that little easing in the marketplace, and maybe margins take a little bit of easing on after such a fantastic period of profitability. But maybe it is the time that we need to start thinking about this again.
Sure, I think that's absolutely right. We need to make sure we offer consumers the chance to spend as much money as they want.
We'll take that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And Neil, before you go, are there any customer or dealer activities or trends that you're researching at the moment? And if so, when are we likely to hear the results? Is there any sort of sneak preview you can give us?
Sure. Well, we're watching the level of inquiries quite carefully at the moment. As you say, it does look like the market's just cooling down a little bit. And so obviously we're working with our dealer partners to try and make sure they maximise the opportunities they've got. We're also going to be running next month, so in May, our State of the Nation survey. So this is the third time we've done that. The first one we did was as we came out of the first lockdown, actually. And we ran that with our clients to get to understand the attitudes of their customers to coming out of the lockdown, but also things like electric cars, travel, finance, and more. So this is the third year we've done this. So it'd be really interesting to see some of the trends in terms of people's attitude, particularly towards electric cars and finance, and see what we're able to see and predict for the future in terms of how that should impact people. The results will be out early June, and I'll make sure you're amongst the first to know.
I'm sure we'll get you back on. You can tell us all about it, Neil, at the time as well, because I think it's perfect timing, isn't it? Now, out of the sort of more severe lockdowns, we're heading into a period of sort of uncertainty and complexity in many ways. So it's perfect timing just to see where the state of the nation is at the minute and what their views are.
Sure, for sure.
I mean, there's a very quick catch up today. So, many thanks for joining us. And as I say, please do come back on when you get that results, and we'll gladly try and get a little bit more time with you, and you can run through that in more detail. Good luck with Driving Digital on Thursday, the 12th of May. Just to remind the listeners, if you are going to the AM Awards, then do take whilst you're down there, make a day of it. Attending the Driving Digital in the morning. And tickets are still available, as Neil has said there, at driving-digital.co.uk. So by the sounds of it, you need to act quickly. So it looks like the weather might be nice as well for it next week. So good luck with everybody there. And thanks again for coming on again, Neil, and sharing your thoughts on a few things this morning.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, and I love the show. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Neil. Well, some great comments there from Neil.
Yes.
Good to have him back on the show, and do head over to Drive and Digital, because that's a good lineup of speakers there.
No, it's a great opportunity, and as we said to Neil there, I mean, just the fact that it's in Westminster, same day as the AM Awards, which is normally held in Birmingham, isn't it? We know that from previous, and Driving Digital was normally held in Birmingham as well. So they've always kind of held them together to give that opportunity to go, whilst you're down in the area, go to both events. But fantastic that it's now down in Westminster, and as Neil said there, the tickets are selling fast. Because of obviously the content and the market that we find ourselves in, and two, the fact that it's down in Westminster on the same day as the AM Awards. So again, just to repeat there, tickets are still available, not many, selling fast. Get in touch, and I'm sure you'll get yourself a ticket there to attend.
Yeah, and not only selling fast, they're free.
There is that, yes.
Yeah.
They've been allocated quickly, yes.
Yes.
So, anyway, let's talk about let's look back and how positive, rather than looking forward and how the market is changing and challenges ahead, but let's look back and talk about some of the performances that the dealers have been putting out. And the first one, we're going over to AM Online, and this is the results for the first quarter from Pendragon, and they are sterling results, aren't they? Let's not kid ourselves. Strong new and used car margins drove Pendragon's 73% Q1 profit boost. So obviously Q1 last year, a little bit challenging with some restrictions still operating within the market, but clearly showing that they've really benefited from this new and used margin potential, haven't they, in the market?
Yeah, and as the AM coverage points out, this latest interim follows a tenfold increase in profits over the course of 2021. So a really positive start to the year. So the trading update was issued over the course of last week, and it showed that underlying profit before tax rose to £18.7 million in the period up to the end of March, and that's against £10.8 million in Q1 last year, with like-for-like operating profit up 39.5% at £28 million. And the results came in a period in which Pendragon delivered a new gross profit per unit, and this is really at the heart of the story. It's these margins. So the profit margins on new cars were £2,456, which was actually £975 higher than Q1 last year. And just looking at the used car margins, although they're described by Pendragon as having gradually softened during Q1 from the exceptionally high levels seen in the second half of last year, they were still significantly higher than Q1 last year. So they averaged £1,767 compared with £1,095 this time last year. So some really, really strong margins.
Phenomenal result. I mean, phenomenal performance there. I mean, just short of 2,500 with a just short of £1,000 year-on-year increase for new margin is phenomenal. Let's not kid ourselves there. And then pushing up your used car margin just short of £1,800 per unit is again a great result, and kind of shows. And the skeptics, the sentiment out in the market, whether is it down to volume or profitability? Will manufacturers return to volume or remain focused on profitability? Still remains to be seen. But I think at the minute, let's take what we've got and benefit from the strong margins and that strong demand that we've got in the marketplace. So fantastic results there and you can see that in the commentary there from the business that saying how positive they are and how fantastic and the performance has been there from the business. So Bill Berman there is obviously very pleased with that performance and fairly focused that they're going to try and keep that momentum going for the business.
Yeah, it's a detailed story. It's worth heading over there. And as you say, it was across the business because it was also a strong quarter for after sales And Pinewoods, their DMS software business, strong period for that as well.
And remaining with AM Online and with financial results, we've got the Inchcape forecast a 25% rise in 2022. So they're looking now forward for the 2022 results there, and also talk about pre-tax profits after Russia exit. So, it's always a difficult one with Inchcape, isn't it? Because of their representation in the market and trying to pull the UK performance out of the global business performance results. But again, very positive with that rise there, and like you say there, with the exit from Russia as well.
Yeah, and again, strong margins, and the piece in AM does actually cite strong margins amid faltering vehicle supplies, boosted the fortunes of Inchcape's retail operations during that 3-month period to the end of March. So it's the same quarter as Pendragon reported on. So over the period, group revenues rose by 13%, with retail up 18%. And as you alluded to, they also, Inchcape as a group, agreed the sale of its Russian car retail operations in Moscow, and this is as a direct result of the war in Ukraine, and that's being sold to the business's existing chief executive and chief financial officer for a sum of £63 million. So that's ongoing at the moment.
Yeah, they say positive results, and I think that obviously 63 million does help, doesn't it, on your balance sheet there. But again, sort of citing how strong the market has continued through the first quarter of this year, with margin retention both in that new and used place at the minute. So again, fantastic results there from both Pendragon and Inchcape. And just finally, heading over to Car Dealer, and this is a bit of a sort of a very interesting move here from Brayley there, and the header is that Brayley's acquires Orpington Honda. Correct. Apologies if I get the pronunciation of that wrong.
Yeah, no, that's right. Orpington. You've come down to my part.
I've come down your area there, exactly. Yeah, and they bought this from Lookers, and obviously this gives the brand takes coverage, and this gives Brayley the coverage around the M25 there, doesn't it, Curtis? As you well know.
Yeah, I mean it's a key acquisition, and it really does complete their coverage of Honda around the M25. So, what a good acquisition. So, this site will join other sites in St Albans, which is actually where Brayley's are based, Enfield, Hemel Hempstead, Ruislip, Thames Ditton, Ewell, Leatherhead, and Romford. So, absolutely key acquisition there. And this actually makes Brayley's Honda's largest partner in the UK, with 8 showrooms and 10 after-sales centres. And it is also worth adding that although Brayley's was launched as a solus Honda business in 2003, it is now multi-franchise, because it also represents Mazda, Kia, Renault, Dacia in those areas that I listed, and it's actually ranked number 90 in the new Motor Trade top 200, so entering the top 100 for the first time, I think.
Yeah, and it's positive to see, because Honda's faced many challenges through the years, and there's always the speculation how they'll consolidate in the UK, maybe focus in Europe, or move away entirely. So I think it's great that we're starting to see sort of reinvigorated investment and growth in Honda in the UK. So a great opportunity there, and this partnership, the growth for Brayley's there, that M25 coverage should be a real positive move, and like you say, a very strategic key move for Brayley's there and Honda. So fantastic move. So packed headlines, couple of interviews there getting. So let's say the chat there with Darren Martin, very quick snippet of what to expect, a very key snippet of what to expect from the interview, but it's still available on your download. Again, Neil Addley there sharing the driving digital. Get your tickets if you can get one. Have a great day and a great evening if you are going down to the AM Awards, and if you're shortlisted, good luck on the evening, and hopefully Neil will join us again when he gets the results there in June from his next research piece. And again, Stephen Whitton will be back on next weekend with the Men Moments. But hopefully you enjoyed this week's headlines.
Well, that was a packed show, wasn't it, Phil?
Just a bit.
I'm going to go and lie down in a minute, but that's all for now. You've been listening to the weekly Motor Trade Radio podcast powered by eBay Motors Group. Many thanks for joining us for all the chat that matters. Do enjoy your bank holiday weekend. We're back again next week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.